Throughout his 70-year career, Buddy Ebsen was a fixture in vaudeville, movies, and television, but he is best remembered to millions as Jed Clampett of the Beverly Hillbillies. His terrible reaction to the makeup caused him lasting health concerns, but he was almost cast as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. Later on, in Barnaby Jones, he played the role of a detective and brought an unexpected appeal to the otherwise challenging genre. Off-screen, Ebsen has a career as a writer and sailor, and possibly even a serious coin hoarder. However, who was the actual actor behind these legendary parts? The Beverly Hillbillies' Buddy Ebsen and Jed Clampett's hidden lives are revealed to LETS. You wouldn't expect Buddy Ebsen's life story to be set in Hollywood. He was not born into an acting family or into a city teeming with Hollywood heavy hitters. On April 2, 1908, he came into this world in a little Illinois town named Belleville. He was not Buddy at that time. Among his many names was Christian Ludolf Ebsen Jr. He was the middle child among 4 sisters, sandwiched between his 2 sets of older and younger sisters. Despite their lack of riches, his family was gifted. The journey from Germany had been quite a journey for his father, Christian Sr. In 1888, while he was a youth, he emigrated to America and established a life for himself. A little bit of a health nut was Buddy's dad. He had a successful career as a dance studio owner and choreographer. In their home, dancing was an integral part of daily life. It was everything. While he was growing up, his dad worked for the school district as the manager of a community pool. His versatility, energy, and constant motion made him seem like a man of many talents. Even Buddy's mom, Frances, had an artistic side. Her ancestry was Baltic German, and she was from Latvia. She painted. It was to be expected that Buddy would gravitate toward the arts, given his artistic parents. After relocating to Orlando, Buddy's family left Illinois when he was 10 years old and settled in Palm Beach County, Florida. While in Orlando, Buddy and his sisters discovered their passion for dancing. Their father owned a dancing studio, where the kids would go to hone their rhythm, timing, and flair. For one family, dancing was more than a hobby, it was a unifying force. But Buddy wasn't all art and no science. As a young man, he became a member of the Order of Demolay, which encouraged its members to take on leadership roles and volunteer in their communities. Although he was unaware of it at the time, his association with Demolay would have a lasting impact on him. As an adult, he continued to receive recognition from them, culminating in his induction into their Hall of Fame. That demonstrated how much his time with Demolay had meant to him, which was a significant development. Buddy had a wide range of interests by the time he graduated from high school in 1926. He had a natural gift for dance, but he also considered becoming a doctor. Thus, he embarked on a short-lived academic stint at Gainesville's University of Florida. He decided he needed a new start after only a year and transferred to Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida. Unfortunately, he and his family fell into some money problems. Because of the abrupt end to the Florida land boom, the Ebsens were put in a difficult position, as the state had been experiencing a period of unprecedented wealth creation. At 20 years old, Buddy was forced to drop out of college. The financial difficulties had a profound impact on Buddy's life. He veered away from the traditional route of medical school. In the summer of 1928, he gathered all of his belongings and departed from Orlando. What was his last destination? Gotham, USA. A little over $26 was all he had on hand, but he was determined and dreamed big. To make ends meet upon arrival, he took a job at a soda fountain store. Nevertheless, Buddy's sister Vilma was his hidden weapon. The two of them eventually became the Baby Astairs, a popular dancing duo. They mesmerized audiences with their high-energy routines at supper clubs. They were able to secure performances in the then-popular vaudeville style of entertainment. Variety artists, including singers, comedians, and dancers, were commonplace in vaudeville performances. The audience was captivated by Buddy and Vilma's performance. They achieved Broadway stardom in 1934 with performances in The Ziegfeld Follies, Flying Colors, and Whoopee. Notable Atlantic City critic Walter Winchell saw them play, and that was their big break. He gushed at their performance. Thanks to that review, they were able to secure a performance at the vaudeville world's premier venue, New York City's Palace Theater. The more Buddy performed, the more his distinctive style came to the forefront. He danced differently than the rest. He had a distinct flair with his eccentric and occasionally bizarre gestures. Walt Disney himself took note of how unique it was. In order to analyze Buddy's dancing technique, Disney opted to videotape him in front of a grid. From 1929 to 1939, Disney's animators used these recordings to bring Mickey Mouse to life in the Silly Symphony's animations. So, Buddy's dancing style became a part of animation lore, influencing Mickey's on-screen movements. There was more to Buddy's dancing career. After signing with MGM, a major studio at the time, he went on to star in a number of films. His musical acting credits include 1930's AXS Born to Dance and Captain January, in which he danced alongside Shirley Temple. He co-starred with Judy Garland in the 1938 Broadway Melody. Not only was he dancing with stars, but he was also becoming one of them. His distinctive style was well received. And he kept appearing in shows alongside Frances Langford and Eleanor Powell, among others. It appeared like Buddy Ebsen's career was proceeding according to schedule. He was dancing with Hollywood heavy hitters like Judy Garland and Shirley Temple, showcasing his distinctive flair, and quickly becoming a household name. Even MGM took note, and Buddy quickly landed what appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a role in The Wizard of Oz. Unfortunately, Buddy's plans completely backfired. Buddy was originally cast by MGM as the Scarecrow. The thrill he felt is easy to fathom. Everyone thought this film would go down in Hollywood history as their most ambitious production to date. A major career boost for Buddy would come from starring in The Wizard of Oz. He had informed his loved ones of the thrilling development, but in Hollywood, plans are always subject to change. Ray Bolger, who was also an actor in the picture, was interested in playing the part of Scarecrow. The Scarecrow, in Ray's mind, was the ideal personification of his famously humorous dancing and performances. Plus, Ray had a formidable agent, which certainly helped. It wasn't long until Buddy found out. As the Scarecrow, Ray Bolger would take the stage. Naturally, Buddy was disappointed, but he handled the situation with grace. He refrained from raising a fuss or arguing over it. He was instead cast as the Tin Man, an entirely new part. He would continue to collaborate with the same ensemble and be a part of the film's enchantment. Without hesitation, Buddy dove headfirst into his new job, attending rehearsals, filming sequences, and even recording songs. He sported the iconic silver Tin Man outfit and goggles, sure to turn heads wherever he went. A major issue, though, arose that nobody had anticipated. The Tin Man's lustrous appearance was achieved with an extremely hazardous cosmetics formula that included aluminum dust. Putting on Buddy's makeup was like breathing in that dust. He had no idea. An odd feeling began to wash over Buddy after a few days. He was exhausted, gasping for air, and afflicted with muscular cramps. He attempted to ignore it at first. Remember, we were in the land of Oz. The agony intensified, and you didn't simply give up. He made his way to the hospital at last. Apparently, Buddy's lungs were coated with aluminum dust, which made it extremely difficult for his blood to transfer oxygen. He was severely injured and required extensive medical care throughout his lengthy hospital stay. The studio executives still didn't think he was very ill. He was merely being difficult, they believed. Even MGM attempted to bring him back to the set against his will, but Buddy's nurse intervened and informed them he couldn't go back. Jack Haley, who became famous as the Tin Man, was cast by MGM to replace Buddy as soon as it became apparent that Buddy could no longer continue in the role. Even when they switched to a less harmful aluminum paste for the cosmetics, Buddy had already suffered enough harm. He lived with chronic lung disease and passed up a renowned part. You may still recognize Buddy's voice in a few songs from The Wizard of Oz, even though he was unable to appear in the film. Some words in We're Off to See the Wizard include his accent, which is a subtle nod to the role he nearly performed. Buddy encountered yet another obstacle following The Wizard of Oz, a disagreement over a contract with MGM. This prevented him from performing for extended periods, and he began to feel trapped as a result. Thus, he embraced a fresh interest. He eventually began instructing aspiring Navy officers in the art of seamanship since he became so proficient at it. Then, Buddy was eager to join the military upon the outbreak of World War II. Multiple times, he was denied admission to the Navy. He was eventually appointed to the rank of officer by the Coast Guard. He rose through the ranks to become the damage control officer aboard the Coast Guard frigate USS Pocatello during his time as a lieutenant in the Navy. He was in charge of the weather patrols aboard his ship, persevering, taxing missions in remote locations. There would be 30 days at sea and 10 days in Seattle for each voyage. Up until his return to civilian life in 1946, Buddy served with honor. Buddy went back to Hollywood as soon as the war was over. Once again, he was hell-bent on acting, but this time it was all about television. His 1949 debut on the Chevrolet Teletheater paved the way for future appearances on other series. Stars Over Hollywood, Broadway, and Schlitz Playhouse of Stars were just the beginning of his meteoric rise to fame. His portrayal of eccentric or wicked characters was particularly well received by audiences. As the antagonist in shows like Bonanza and Maverick, Buddy had a talent for playing memorable villains. In the Disney miniseries Davy Crockett, Buddy played the role of Georgie Russell, Davy Crockett's faithful buddy, and got his big break in the television industry. The show was a hit with viewers of all ages. And many viewers came to love Buddy. Buddy was once again in the limelight because to Davy Crockett's success, but he wasn't content to remain there. He performed the role of Sergeant Hunk Mariner on the Western series Northwest Passage in the 50s and 60s. Considered a landmark at the time, it was one of the pioneering color westerns. Rawhide, Tales of Wells Fargo, Gunsmoke, and other westerns featured Buddy's charming and untamed personality. In Breakfast at Tiffany's, Buddy played Holly's older brother Doc Golightly, which became one of his most renowned TV performances. He rarely played roles like this in westerns. Although his sister had left him, the country vet Doc's affection for her remained unwavering. The plot was enhanced by Buddy's performance, which garnered accolades for revealing a more vulnerable side to him on television. Creator Paul Henning knew he wanted Buddy for the character of Jed Clampett on the program, which he cast in 1962. The role would go on to become Buddy's most memorable role. Hearing Buddy play the role of the naive but insightful Jed on television, Henning claimed he couldn't imagine anyone else in the role. He thought Buddy would be the perfect fit for the role because of his genuine charisma and earthiness, and he was right. The core of the show's popularity was Buddy's performance as Jed. The Clampett's tale was narrated by the Beverly Hillbillies. The story of an impoverished Ozarks family who become overnight millionaires after striking oil on their property. They uproot their lives and settle into a house in Beverly Hills, California, thanks to their windfall. As Jed, Ellie Mae, Granny, and Jethro, Jethro's nephew, attempted to blend in with the city's upper class, the situation became a source of great comedic irony. No matter how prosperous the Clampett family became, they never wavered from their traditional mountain lifestyle. Patriarch Jed was a wise man who kept his family together and led them through a series of bizarre situations. Buddy was more than simply a punchline for Jed because of the genuine emotion he brought to the character. Though he struggled to grasp city customs at times, Jed was honest and good-natured. Whenever Granny, Ellie Mae, or Jethro got into trouble, he would step in and act as the level-headed adult. Well, old doggies, Buddy's now iconic statement as Jed entered the canon of American popular culture. The character was a huge hit with viewers, and Buddy reprised his role in every episode. At its height, the Beverly Hillbillies attracted an astounding 60 million viewers. Because of this, it became one of the most watched television series of all time, with half-hour episodes like The Giant Jackrabbit breaking ratings records. For its first 2 seasons, the show was the most watched television series of all time, and for the majority of its 9-year existence, it remained in the top 20. Viewers couldn't get enough of the show's comedic moments, even though critics weren't always complimentary. 2 spin-off series, Green Acres and Petticoat Junction, which offered different perspectives on rural life to television, were also created as a result of the show's immense popularity. On the other hand, he had a reputation for being conservative, which frequently caused friction on the Beverly Hillbillies set with Nancy Culp, who portrayed the prim Miss Hathaway. Nancy held a more liberal stance, and they differed in almost every respect. Donna Douglas, who played Ellie Mae, said that Buddy and Nancy would get into long, passionate arguments that would last weeks. In 1984, when Nancy was a Democrat running for Congress, Buddy went to great lengths to back her opponent, accusing Nancy of being too liberal, because their disputes were so heated. Nancy felt her co-star had betrayed her, which made her disappointed. On the other hand, Buddy thought she was utilizing her fame to win over voters without fully comprehending the problems. The Beverly Hillbillies was one of several rural-themed shows that CBS opted to discontinue in 1971 in order to make way for more urban-focused programming, despite the fact that it was still popular. Even so, the Beverly Hillbillies continue to air in reruns and have a special place in fans' hearts as a cherished classic. Much of the show's popularity transferred to subsequent seasons. Thus, for all time, Buddy Ebsen was known as Jed Clampett. However, Buddy's career was far from over after he left the Beverly Hillbillies. He switched things up in 1973 by starring in Barnaby Jones, another TV series. This time around, Buddy took on the role of a retired private investigator who drinks milk and revives his son's murder investigation. After the comedic style of the Beverly Hillbillies, Buddy successfully transitioned to this new show. His portrayal of Barnaby Jones was both witty and little quaint. Buddy was a mainstay in all 178 episodes of the hit series, which ran for 8 seasons. The actress who played Betty, Barnaby's daughter-in-law, Lee Meriwether, loved collaborating with Buddy and thought he was fantastic in the role. According to her, he energized every scene he was in. When Buddy was on set, he reveled in his role as the detective and even got a kick out of using the CSI-style equipment. On and off set, Lee and Buddy had a great rapport, and Buddy was a delight to work with. As a one-of-a-kind bridge between his two iconic roles, Buddy appeared in a few crossovers, including an episode of Canon, and even had a cameo as Barnaby in the 1993 film version of the Beverly Hillbillies. Buddy finally came full circle in his career with this cameo in the Beverly Hillbillies, which was his last film appearance. Upon reaching his 80s, Buddy largely stepped away from acting, though he did make occasional cameo appearances. In the 80s, he was the voice of Disney Family Album on the Disney Channel. His final television appearance was in 1999, when he portrayed a character on King of the Hill. In 1993, Disney recognized him as a Disney legend, and his lengthy career resulted in a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Buddy had a wide range of skills outside performing. In his book of the same name, he chronicles his passion for sailing and the catamaran he designed and built, the Polynesian concept. Along with co-founding the Beverly Hills Coin Club, he was a passionate coin collector. One rare coin in Buddy's collection was worth more than $200,000. In his spare time, he painted and even wrote books, one of which was Kelly's Quest, a bestseller, and Sizzling Cold Case, a mystery book based on his Barnaby Jones persona. Throughout his life, Buddy tied the knot 3 times. In 1936, he wed Ruth Cambridge. They eventually divorced after having 2 kids. His Coast Guard colleague Nancy Walcott was his bridegroom in 1945. They shared nearly 4 decades of marriage and had 5 kids. Dorothy Knott was his 3rd wife, whom he wed in 1985, when he was much older. Even though Buddy and Dorothy didn't have any children together, they remained married for the remainder of his life. Dorothy was 40 years younger than Buddy. All 3 of Buddy's daughters, Kiki, Kathy, and Bonnie, became accomplished horsewomen because of his devotion to his family. Throughout his life, Buddy maintained a close bond with his family and took great pride in his children's accomplishments. Buddy Ebsen's life was as interesting and multifaceted as his acting career. From his humble beginnings on Broadway to his meteoric rise to Hollywood stardom, Buddy maintained his endearing personality and exceptional talent throughout his career, whether he was dancing with Shirley Temple or solving mysteries on television. You could know him as Barnaby Jones, the cunning investigator, or as Jed Clampett, the innocent but wise hillbilly who became wealthy. But there was always a man who embraced his roles, maintained an insatiable curiosity, and pursued his dreams. Buddy Ebsen was 95 years old when he died in 2003, yet his impact lives on. His 7-decade career is commemorated by a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and his characters continue to be adored by viewers of all generations. Buddy Ebsen had an unforgettable life, filled with memorable roles and an adventurous attitude.